Yeah, there's carcass laying around. It looks like a coho, a jack, and it's been drug up from the stream, from the river. A predator like a raccoon or a possum or coyote drug it up and didn't finish. It just ate out the heart. You can see where the creature just opened up the salmon just below the gills and took out the heart and left all the rest. A bird has taken the eyeballs, probably a seagull or an eagle, but the predator opened up here and dug out the heart and ate it, and it's going to leave the rest of the salmon here, the rest of the carcass, to decompose, to break down, and to feed the plants. To see this come to fruition, to see this one jack salmon here is evidence of good work.
Check. Welcome, Donnie Stevenson, Teatstock, Muckleshoot Tribe. My name is Donnie Stevenson, and I am Muckleshoot. Again, welcome. I just want to offer a few words in way of welcome. The beauty that I feel in my heart as I look out upon each and every one of you is something that I have a hard time being able to articulate, express, and to put into words. The power of tribal peoples coming together with one heart is a thing of incredible beauty and incredible power. When you talk about the first salmon ceremony, it's us as a people's honoring that scout, that first representative of the salmon peoples who come to visit our respective homes and villages. We place them on high, and we do that by treating them with generosity and a welcoming spirit, so that that spirit travels back to the salmon people, that he'll speak of us with good words and the generosity that we share. My hands are raised to each and every one of you who have put forward the energy to make the poll here today. You are our people. You are our past and our history. And just as importantly, you are our future. Hands are raised. Thank you. Daharapsh.
Our ancestors fished for the salmon. They treated the salmon like I would treat any other human being, with respect and dignity. The salmon was a mainstay of their life. That was one of their primary food sources. Protecting that primary food source was protecting not only themselves, but their future generations. The salmon are on the same plane as we are. They give up their life so that we can live. And in that, we honor them. How do you pay respects to salmon? Make sure that they have a good home to come to. You take care of the water that they rely on, like they take care of us because we rely on them. And so by taking care of the water and their home, they have a place to come back to. We understood as well that this world that we live in was made for us by the Creator. And He didn't give it to us so that we could call it ours. This land was made for us to take care of. not for us to possess. That's the difference of the mindset that everyone seemed to have when they came to our lands. We valued the resources on that land, but we maintained them. You can't just take it all. You can't destroy it. The salmon are an indicator species. The salmon, being an indicator species, is the gauge that science looks at to determine how healthy the waterways are, how healthy the environment is in the environment they live in. If they are dying, that tells them there's something wrong with the water. There's something wrong with what's going on with the land. Our people knew that. Spiritual values can be like science. They would look at the resources and the connections, and they would find ways why those things are happening. They didn't need science to do it. They were very observative. It's spiritual.
Food sovereignty is the inherent right of a people to collectively decide what they want to eat. And when we collectively make that decision, we are essentially voting for that thing to return. We are able to feed ourselves. And to be a sovereign nation, the power of being able to feed yourself is what strengthens sovereignty. When I first heard the term food sovereignty, I felt that it had a different weight for tribal communities in particular, and for Muckleshoot in particular, because in our creation stories, our foods are our identity. And this is not separate from like food culture globally. The foods that you eat are what identify you as that culture and that people. The difference is when there have been intentional severing from that food system, when there have been federal and state and local policies and laws that have separated us from a food system that has fed us since time began. And the return of those things, returning back to that, is what helps us strengthen our sovereignty, helps us continue to be who we are as Muckleshoot people.
My name is Leo John LeClaire, born here at Muckleshoot. And I wanted to jump to what kind of got my roots into tribal spiritual life. When I was a youngster, I went and, with my grandmother. She took me down to see her son down at the river. At that time, there was no dam. He would hook me up to a rope. She showed me how to dip fish from that scaffold. And there was all Indians on that area. And the thunder of the river, you could hardly hear. It was just so loud and scary, and the water spinning. I had a long pole with a round at the end, and there was a net. And so you just put it in where the river was, where it would be swirling down like this, and the fish would come through, and then you could feel them jerk, and then you'd pull these were like 30, 40-pound fish. Took all my strength to be able to get them up to where I was standing, and then put them into the potato sack. I was about 7 years old, but I felt safe that other tribal members are around me on their scaffolds. And my uncle says, well, if you fall in, they'll catch you in their net. Don't worry. Of course, I finally got into it and got to know the other fishermen. That was my, kind of like my roots of learning the spirituality of the salmon. And that was really, my upcoming in the Indian spirit way of life.
Today we're at the Kitty Creek Hatchery. You see behind me is Coho salmon, which will be spawned out here in the next week or two. In 1980, I was elected to the Fish Commission. I began serving when I was 20. A number of years ago, I coined the phrase, "We are the salmon people." For generations, it sustained our way of life. And now we must do what we can to sustain the life of the salmon. So we took it upon ourselves to begin a Chum program. They're one of the few salmon that are in abundance. And so it's become one of our top fisheries for our fishermen. As we've grown into the facility that you see today, we're now producing upwards of 6 million chum in the neighborhood of 1.5 million coho. We not only participate in the enhancement programs in producing fish, but we also participate in the harvest management when they return as adults. We at Muckleshoot are the only tribe within the state that has developed 3 different agreements in protecting minimum stream flows for salmon. It's unprecedented. You don't see that anywhere. And without water, you don't have salmon. It's the main portion of the habitat. The tribe is not the only beneficiary. The entire ecosystem benefits in what we're doing here. The ecosystem includes the orca, the sea lion, the seals. The state of Washington benefits. The recreational fisheries, they benefit as well. And so the benefits far outweigh the costs that go into producing these facilities. And so we'll always participate in fisheries. We'll continue to provide enhancement so that our fishers can take part in the culture that's been established.
During the assimilation era with the tribes, they had to assimilate, otherwise they were punished physically or mentally. So that was kind of forced upon us. And fishing and gathering our resources were so important to us. During the treaty negotiation process, we included those lands that we traveled to gather the things that we needed for hunting and gathering, fishing. And that's why it was in the treaty. They signed the treaties with the understanding that they guaranteed those rights to us. But after they were signed, there was no guarantees. They didn't exist anymore. And those things were denied us, even though they were in the treaty.
It's illegal here and it's going to be taken.
You're not taking this net. This is the last net you got.
Both under arrest for 1812.
The treaty right was secured with the United States in 1854 and 1855 under Medicine Creek Treaty and the Point Elliott Treaties. And so those treaties outlined, specified that we were able to fish in usual and accustomed grounds. And so these fishing wars that we seen take place was individuals participating and exercising those rights that were reserved under the treaties for the tribes. A lot of the fish wars, they took place when I was 9, 10 years old, late 60s and early 70s, and a lot of the meetings would take place in our home. And as a young boy, I would watch different individuals volunteer to go to jail. We watched this take place and watched the community come together and surround those families and help provide for them. And these individuals that were arrested, they believed our people, for generations harvested the salmon. The treaty secured their right to harvest them. It was a way of life. And so when the state seeing that tribes were participating in what they termed illegal fisheries, you know, they felt that they had a duty and a responsibility to the general public to arrest these individuals for what they deemed poaching. But to us, it was our way of life. At the time, a lot of the other tribes' cases would go into a local district court, but the goal was to get it into a federal court. And so we finally, here at Muckleshoot, got into the federal district court. And so that's how Bolt was initiated. And then in 1974, when the Bolt case was won, you know, having seen that transpire, I was able to begin fishing with my father in 1974. And so, you know, those memories are, you know, are there and vivid.
It was a lot of work. There is a lot of work that has to go into keeping that right. But without that salmon being in the river, we don't have any rights. The right dwindles with that salmon. And so it doesn't matter how many years have gone by. The constant struggle is always there. We're just like the salmon. We're trying to sustain our living, our life. That's what we're doing.
We're at the Ballard Locks. We've got a lot of problems with sockeye surviving in the lake. And so we developed this blast program, which is the Ballard Locks Adult Sockeye Transfer. 2002, 2004, and 2006, we had runs over 400,000. Now we've got runs at the locks around 25,000. And then after they go through the pre-spawn mortality in the lake, we're down to 3,000 to 4,000 the last 3 years. And so what we're doing here with this pilot project is taking the fish from the ladder, outside the ladder, transporting them live on a boat, then taking that boat, transporting it upriver to a landing station, and then taking the fish out of there, putting them on another live tank, on a truck tank, and then taking them to the Landsberg Sockeye Hatchery up at Landsberg Dam on the Cedar River. You know, it's a huge uphill battle when you're working with literally only 1,000 salmon, you know, thousands of salmon, when you got millions of these predators out there that are predating on the young fish. But the tools we do have, we're putting to use to try to stop the decline and start to rebuild these stock. This program, the BLAST program, is probably the best news saying we can do this. And for sockeye, it's huge news. If we can get this done and the fish rear up there safely for the next 2 months, then the sky's the limit. Tribe's committed. You know, they're fishers, hunters, and gatherers. And that's where they're putting a lot of investment back into that because it's not only for now, it's for 7 generations.
So we're here on this side channel, and again we're seeing more evidence of some of the good things that are happening because of what Mother Nature does mostly, and with some help from humans. Evidence of the elk utilizing this area, and evidence of salmon also using this area, using the water system. What a great feeling it is to know that the beneficiaries are accepting the gift, that are accepting all the efforts that were done here to help improve their home. in a place we call Chakwab. The word Chakwab literally translates as bringing it to the water. That's what the term Chakwab means, bringing something to the water. We selected the name to remind people that this area wasn't always farmland. It wasn't always a tree farm. It wasn't always a cornfield. Now, this was a home to the first peoples of this area for 14,000 years, for over 14,000 years. And so it's a great honor to be able to remind people of that word and of that place, Chakwab. Yeah, hear the eagle in the background there. That was beautiful. So salmon are a staple food for us even today. You know, they fed our people 14,500 years ago, and they're still feeding our people today in 2022. So that gives you an idea of how valuable this resource is. It's invaluable. It's priceless. And so it really is something special to stand here and see this success story, to see the salmon come home, to see the cool, clear water provide this home for our relative, the Shtedad. And I look forward to several more of these generations, several more of these years of salmon returning back.
The salmon people are the most honored traditional food. For thousands of years, the Chinook, dog, Sockeye, Coho, and pink have held their rightful place as cultural keystone pillars of the Muckleshoot people. Archaeologists date the use and management of salmon back 10,000 years, but for any Coast Salish native, we have been in relations with the salmon people since time began. This is reaffirmed in our creation stories, where salmon is the first food to be gifted to our people. And they are more than just food. They are our teachers and our relatives, weaving together the social fabric of our community as we organize our lives around their existence and their returns. Every year, the salmon people journey the ocean waters, eating and tonifying their bodies with the richness of the seas. Upon return to their ancestral rivers, they make the ultimate sacrifice as they spawn and die for the next generation. And as Coast Salish people, as Muckleshoot people, we see this as an act of love, a demonstration of abundance and generosity, and we ask how we might live a life so full and so committed to life eternal. In many ways, the salmon reminds us of what it takes to be an advocate for the land.